I'm your host, Hari Sreenivasan. The Texas Tribune is a pioneering, nonprofit, nonpartisan media organization providing deep coverage of Texas politics and public policy, and has served as a model for local journalism organizations. Joining me now is Evan Smith, CEO and co-founder of the Texas Tribune. It's been running how long now?
9.5 years we've been in business.
Right? And what we were talking about off camera, you thought you were cutting edge then.
Yeah, boy, that turned out to be the Stone Age. We started in the fall of 2009. There was no tablet yet released by Apple, no iPad until the spring of 2010. Instagram did not exist. Slack did not exist. Snapchat did not exist. And people viewed those channels, even the ones that did exist, Twitter, very differently than they do now. We thought we were on the cutting edge, and it turns out we were cavemen. We had no idea.
So how, I think the big question is how is this funding model that you've designed, what is the model and how is it sustainable?
So it's public media, right? Yeah. So PBS, NPR stations, we know a lot about those. You raise money from individuals, foundations, and corporate underwriters.
Yeah.
We have done that. We've not relied on one revenue source primarily. We've had a series of, a mix of sources. And that way, if one is a little bit down one year, another one might come back. And So we're, in essence, 5 equal buckets. Not really, but in essence.
Okay.
Major individual donations, rich people. We have a lot of those in Texas. It's a target-rich environment.
Yeah.
10% of the Forbes list is in 400 is in Texas.
Okay.
About 20% is institutional philanthropy, big national foundations like Ford and Gates.
Yeah.
And then state foundations and local foundations that support us. About 20% corporate underwriting, about 20% revenue generated from events.
Okay.
And then about 20% membership, individuals, $10, $35, $60. People who believe in the value of our work and say their lives are materially impacted by our accountability reporting. They better understand the world they live in. They're motivated to participate civically, and so they want to send us a few bucks and support us.
And early on, I remember, I don't know how many years ago it was, but you had these data kind of dumps almost. But it was red light cameras, it was teacher salaries.
Government employee salaries, public information accountability and performance data, higher ed completions, every inmate in a Texas prison, available, searchable, and sortable. Look, public information has that pesky word public in it.
Yeah.
It's ours.
Right.
It's all of ours. And yet government makes it hard to get access to it. And once you find it, it's hard to search it and sort it the way you want. And we said we ought to make public information public. What a novel idea. So we go get it, we clean it up, make it searchable and sortable, and present these big databases of public information.
Yeah. And that has a very long tail. People are still coming.
Oh, sure. It's responsible for an unreasonably high amount of our traffic. But, the thing that is the big brand, I think, of the Tribune these days especially is public service journalism of a more familiar variety. We hold people in power and institutions accountable, regardless of party or ideology. We uncover waste, fraud, and abuse, but that's a glib way to think of it.
Right.
We examine the work of government. We make it understandable and transparent to the average person. But most important, no one can get away with anything if our reporters are at the state capitol. And the people in elective office all know they can't get away with anything because we're there watching them at all times.
Are you filling a gap that has been left by traditional journalism waning because they didn't have the mix of revenue?
Well, sadly, I think we are. I do not cheer at all the decline in the regular legacy press. These are our friends and partners, our brothers and sisters in arms. And when they succeed at their work to the degree that they're able to these days, we amplify it, we cheer them on.
Competition's great for that.
It is great, and I miss, honestly, the competition that maybe only we've romanticized that used to exist. Maybe it never actually existed. When I got to Texas, Hari, in 1991, the Capitol Press Corps was 3 times the size it was when I left Texas Monthly, my longtime employer, to go to work in starting the Texas Tribune.
Yeah.
We at the Tribune, on any given day, are between 1/3 and 1/2 of the press corps at the Capitol in Austin in total. We have the most reporters covering a state capitol of any news organization in the entire country, for-profit or non-profit, for like the 5th year running. Because Texas is so big and so influential, disproportionately compared to other states, we've got to deploy all the resources possible to cover public education, immigration, healthcare, transportation. Every one of these things affects every single person in the state of Texas.
Now, is this a blueprint that can be pressed across the country?
We are not a Chick-fil-A or an In-N-Out burger. We're not trying to franchise the restaurant. My delicious chicken may not be interesting in your state. On the other hand, you can come and learn the recipe for our chicken and take the things about that recipe that work in Texas that might work for you, take that back. But every place is different. We don't know Nevada or Mississippi or Idaho. We know Texas better than anybody.
Right.
But we don't presume to know other places, and therefore for us to export the model in total would be arrogant, and it would be wrong. It wouldn't work. Local communities have the ability to stand up their own versions of this with our help or without, and we're certainly happy to help if we can.
Well, what was the thing that you learned most in the last 9 years that you might have done differently had you known that now?
Differently.
Yeah.
Not assuming out of the gate that anybody who gives money to any nonprofit, by virtue of that, is likely to give money to our nonprofit. The psychographic motivation to get all highfalutin here, to give to a nonprofit news organization of the kind we are, is more aligned with political giving than giving to a museum or to the American Cancer Society. So we prospect off of political donor lists. People who give money to politics are used to not getting their way all the time, and they're prepared to part with their money because they lose elections sometimes. They don't get anything for it. But they're contributing to the idea that the world can be better, and they want to be a part of the solution in their own way. So if you look at our donor wall, we disclose every dollar that comes to the Texas Tribune in real time from the very beginning since we launched, because we're asking for transparency.
Sure.
Everybody else, we should provide the same transparency.
Sure.
It is the most Republicans and the most Democrats in Texas, side by side. People who agree on nothing else but the value of our work. We've identified people on both sides who give to politics who see the value of a robust news ecosystem covering public policy and elections.
And people who care about Texas.
We are all wearing the uniform of Texas. I mean,
Right.
the thing that's the other big aha for us is you can really do nonpartisan journalism. People doubt that. The farther I get away from Austin, the snickers get louder when I say nonpartisan journalism. They think it's like jumbo shrimp, an oxymoron, right? But if you look at our work for 9.5 years, we are absolutely down the middle. On any given day, both liberals and conservatives hate us. We wear no uniform but the uniform of Texas.
Now, is there a model of journalism that's emerged where your reporters are more transparent in how they report the process,
Sure.
showing their work?
Sure,
right?
like
These
a
are-
fourth grader in math class.
Yeah.
Look, I think we face three major things, Hari, every single day: official condemnation, public distrust, and economic distress. I've got the economic distress thing pretty well in hand with the model we built.
Yeah.
On the official condemnation thing, I'm with Marty Barron of the Washington Post. Our job is not to go to war. Our job is to go to work.
Right.
Any official condemnation can be solved by doing more and better journalism. But the public distrust thing is a problem.
Right.
We have to persuade people every day that the work we're doing is fair, thorough, accurate, credible, and reliable. And that means being more transparent about our processes. It means being in a two-way conversation at all times with our audience. It means searching for the truth and telling people what we found every day. Sometimes we tell them the truth we found, and sometimes we tell them we couldn't find the truth, and here's why. That level of transparency is good for our business, and it solves the public distrust problem to the degree it can be solved.
I was going to say, to the degree that it can be solved, it seems that there are also institutional forces working against trusting the press.
Well, I don't think those institutional forces are in our newsrooms necessarily. I think
Right.
they're out of our newsrooms. I think the problem is that the bad actors have gotten really good at spoofing us and making unsuspecting people who are the uninitiated, they've spoofed them in such a way that they now think all information is the same information. Brands have power. Credibility has power. Truth matters.
Yeah.
Our job as journalists is to continue to talk about the idea that there are good sources of information and bad, like there are good journalists and bad, like there are good politicians and bad, like there are good lawyers and bad lawyers. We're not all the same. And through the quality of our work and the impact of our work, we will distinguish ourselves from the bad actors.
How do you adapt and survive and hopefully thrive in an ecosystem where the social platforms have as much power in the distribution of your work?
Interestingly, we never associated ourselves with the Facebooks and Googles of the world from an audience growth standpoint. So if you didn't go up the mountain, you can't go down it. Our growth has been entirely organic. Our traffic to our website alone today, and the audience is only one measure of our success, is 10 times or more what it was when we launched. More than 2 million people from Texas and not from Texas are on our site every single month, reading the news that we provide on public policy, politics, and state government. It can be higher.
Yeah.
But we're not at risk of being smacked about the head and face by the algorithm because we were never embracing the algorithm, as it were, to begin with.
Right.
Yeah.
And editorially, what guides your news judgment on a daily or weekly basis? Is it about a section of the newsroom covering breaking news? Is it about somebody doing long-form investigation? All of the above?
The answer is yes. It's all of the above. Yeah. We do breaking news. We do daily news. We do beat reporting. We do election and political reporting. We do watchdog journalism, and we do long-form investigative. We do any and all. And everybody on the team plays every role at a various point during the year. We are all in this together, rowing in the same direction. And one of the great things about building a newsroom from scratch is that we've been able to go into this with the knowledge, all of us, that we have multiple roles to play.
All right, Evan Smith from the Texas Tribune, thanks so much.
All right, thanks so much.